Hello and welcome to Peak Level Audio. Let's look at a few tips to make programmed hi-hats less robotic, even for non-drummers. Let's start with open hi-hats. They sound like this. So for the open hi-hats, the first thing is just to use different strength samples. So in this case, we're using open 3 on the 2s and 4s and then open 2 on the 1s and 3s. The reason for that is drummers tend to be a little bit heavier handed on the 2s and 4s when the snare is being hit, so we're using a more open hi-hat. And in this case, we are also using a harder or a higher velocity, 127. And we're using that across the board. And for open 2, we're going a little bit quieter at 114. So here's what it would sound like if we weren't doing this. And with our changes, so it just breathes a little life into the open hi-hats. Next up, let's look at closed hi-hats. They sound like this. So this example is a little simpler to prove a point. So all we're doing here is putting the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s on the closed edge and the ands on the closed tip. So the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s are accented by the harder closed edge hit. But if you check out the velocities, you can see I am 127 across the board. I'm not even adding velocity variation, but it still makes a big difference in our final result. Here it is again. And if we weren't doing that, it would sound like this. So just by putting the 1s and 3s and 2s and 4s on a different sample, you get this. And that's enough to make a big difference. So let's get even simpler on our final example of a closed hi-hat. Let's say we don't even want to differentiate between samples. What can we do? So in this example, we have our 2s and 4s at our highest velocity. We have our 1s and 3s at a quieter velocity. And we have our ands at the lowest velocity. So what we're doing here is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so we're putting a little bit of an accent on the 1, our hardest accent on the 2, and then our softest accent on the ands. And it sounds like this. And if we weren't doing that, it would sound like this. So there's just a few examples that you can apply to programmed hi-hats to make them sound a little bit more realistic, even for non-drummers. Thanks for listening, and I'll play you out.